to be. The last escape, a destiny.
Last Rocket from Planet Longday by Steve Tier. The relentless killer sun was a death sentence. The air was thick with the acrid stench of rocket fuel, a biting scent that clawed at the back of my throat. The horizon was a blur of heat and vapor. Rocket fuel hissed and steamed, evaporating into a toxic haze that shimmered like a mirage. Even through the protective filters of my metallic sunsuit, I sensed the chemical tang. An invisible threat lingered at the edge of every breath. This was Longday, a planet in its final throes, and I had spent 3 years here, each day a gamble against death. Today was the day I'd either leave this hell behind or die with it. For this was the last rocket, our final chance at escape. Automated robot loaders were lumbering. The squat, heavy robots appeared more like military tanks than any intelligence. The last rocket's robot crew struggled, preparing to remove us from this inferno. It's like the hell I always imagined. Where lakes and rivers once sparkled, now lay beds of cracked mud, their scent a dry reminder of water long gone. Skeletal fish, their bones stark white, were the only markers of what once thrived here. No birds, no ground creatures, no plants. Scientists theorized primitive life might survive deep below, but no evidence ever emerged. Drilling for water proved futile. The planet's last breath seemed inevitable. As a driller, I wondered about a buried life. Would that life cry out in desperation when the planet finally exploded? Their voices lost in the silence of space? All life is precious, even in pain. Of the half-dozen passengers, one stood out, a small framed figure in a military sunsuit. I'd been on Longday for 3 lonely years, and something about her caught my attention. Was she in military intelligence? A witness to this doomed planet's last moments? Her visor's glare hid her face, but her movements betrayed panic as her suit swelled. A hiss of escaping air meant death here. One pinhole could turn you to vapor. Diving for adhesive, I pressed the tape to her inner thigh, sealing the leak. Her brown eyes met mine through the visor, steady, kind, and curious. Her comm crackled. "Cowboy, watch the hands," she joked. I smiled. Who was this woman? She was Kahira, and her mind raced back to the days when she was celebrated, not feared or exiled. Her innovations had once promised salvation, not destruction, but the Council's fear had turned her vision into a curse. So here she was, leaving on the last rocket from Planet Longday. "This cowboy's name is Jackson," I said. "Pleased to meet you, Jackson. Is that your first name or your last?" I hadn't used my first name for over 3 years. "Sorry, my name's Guy Jackson. Please, my friends, call me Driller." Others in the small group were now attentive as they stepped back a few paces. A sunsuit explosion could ignite another suit. "All your friends are giving us privacy," she joked again. "All passengers must board now," barked a mechanical robot voice through the comlink. Everyone hustled forward, anxious to escape this planet. There I still knelt, her shadow gone. I didn't even know her name yet. She saw the life-threatening danger with no panic, but she didn't stick around to make conversation. Why was she here? Yes. I grew more curious. 3 years instilled a burning curiosity in a man. I stood and glanced one last time around the dying planet. I wished I could save it, but it was too late. I turned and boarded the shining rocket. Goodbye and farewell. The rocket's interior was a narrow, cylindrical chamber, the walls cold and unyielding, echoing the metallic tang of fear. Strange, discordant music filtered through the comlink, its notes tinny and out of place, like a distant memory of life before the heat and desolation. The idling engines vibrated through my bones, a low, constant thrum. Seats for 20 people on each side ran lengthwise attached to the outer curved walls. Too many seats for this small passenger list. The dim lights flickered. The humming main engine was hot. There were 6 of us. Myself, the driller, Ramirez, the mechanic, Winkler, the cook, Fisher, the toxicologist, and Schmidt, the scientist. And of course, the mysterious brown-eyed young woman. Robots sealed lifeless in the back cargo area. There were no pilots. Everything was computer-controlled, automated flight plan. I noticed the new young woman strapped into the farthest-most seat, about 5 times the length of my sleeping bunk on Longday, 12 paces away. Alone time was what she wanted, not approachable on this trip. Lonely, I plunked into the seat nearest the heavy boarding door and locked my shoulder straps. The door's slam was like the final note in a symphony of dread, echoing through the hollow space of the rocket. The metallic clang reverberated in my chest, the sound of inevitability. Inside, the air was thick with anticipation and the metallic tang of fear. The others' movements create a symphony of footsteps and whispers, their breaths a collective sigh of both relief and terror as the engines hummed to life. It lurched forward and jerked again, the unexpected motion threw those standing to the floor. Without warning, the engine roared to life and we sailed off in a fast spinning spiral. Bodies and gear flew outward from wild G-force. Winkler's helmet cracked open and he gasped, struggling for his last air. The cabin hadn't pressurized. Impaled on the ceiling sensor shaft, Ramirez swore some crude Spanish in the comlink. He bled copious amounts. The red fluid spread outward against the curved ceiling, like puke in a spinning carnival ride. Pinned in place like a butterfly, the rocket soared vertically now, and then, bad news, the power snuffed out. Everything, lights, engines, life support, all off. The instant drop made my stomach jump in my throat. Overbearing G-force pulling me into my seat. We plummeted nose down, spinning again toward Longday's rock-hard surface. I fought blackout. Ramirez and Winkler were dead. Fisher and Schmidt's bodies tossed like rolling limp rag dolls. Blood covered the inside of their visors, endless slamming back and forth from wall to wall, rotating like wet flesh bags of slurry in a wild cement mixer. I braced for impact, counting the seconds. Soon I'd be dead. The impact of the crash was a cacophony of metal screaming against stone, the rocket twisting and wrenching. The doors didn't just open, they exploded outward with a force that sent a shockwave through my body. The taste of metal and dust suddenly thickened in my mouth. Heat from the surface invaded the cabin, carrying with it the stench of burning and the sharp, acrid bite of the atmosphere outside. The mangled rocket bounced upward to the height of a well tower, then fell lifeless, shuddering against stone. Sliding in loose sand and rock, the surface heat blast and toxic atmosphere roared inside. Death. Upside down, I snapped loose the harness straps. I dropped and slid in blood. I sprawled dizzy, sliding across the former ceiling toward what I sought. The young woman. Was she alive or dead? My suit was still intact. Was hers? Her helmet hung down limp but attached. She slumped against the straps. I popped loose the belts and lowered her to the former ceiling, now an upside-down floor. Her suit held together. I dragged her unconscious and inched toward the door and the blazing light. Not much time until we expired. But I grimaced. Dying together was better. Ironic. So close to its own sun, and still freezing as the planet rotated. Night was only made bearable by the residual heat radiating from rock and sand, our desperate situation, nowhere near shelter, power, or water. I lay the brown-eyed young woman gently in coarse red sand. Her eyes remained closed, but she was still breathing. She'd live. I returned to the ship to scavenge supplies. The 4 crumpled bodies were motionless, but I checked for life signs to be sure. All dead. I found a supply of water bottles and stole Fisher's candy. He didn't need it. Back in the cargo hold, I started one of the boxy robots. They were more like clunky vehicles than human forms. Strapped upside down in the rocket, the problem was dropping the massive robot. It could cause robot damage or crush me. I pulled a knife from my side pack and flicked it open. A few slices, and the robot crashed upside down and rolled on its side. It was too heavy to upright. "Right yourself," I commanded. It flopped and struggled. I kicked it and finally strained, levering it right side up with a broken support beam. I crawled inside a small panel to an opening inside the robot and commanded it again. "Forward!" This time it lunged through the damaged rocket wall like a sharp bottle opener. It teetered and then stabilized on the steep slope. "Stop and remain," I said. "Acknowledged," it replied in a smooth female voice. It was a shock. I'd never heard of a female robot before. I went back through the ragged hole and came crashing back with the other robot. They both still worked. It was a miracle. These two could provide metal muscle to cross some distance. To where? I had no idea. But it was reassuring. How long would their power cells last? I returned to the wreck and got as many spare batteries as I could locate. I piled them on top of the robots. I examined my companion on the ground. She moved an arm. I scrutinized her name tag, Thomas. That's a start, I thought. "Thomas, can you hear me?" I said through the comlink. Her eyes fluttered open. The previous kindness was gone. She squinted at me and scowled. "What's happening?" "We've crashed, everyone's dead, but you and I and two lucky cargo robots," I said. She was silent. "Did you hear me? Is your comm working okay?" "My comm is fine. Where are we?" Our mutual desperate situation was soaking in. No clue, surface of Longday, but I couldn't tell you where. I noticed the radioactive detector flash on her suit, but odd, not mine. "What's up with your suit?" I asked, pointing at the blinking red light. She glanced at it, puzzled, and nodded as if connecting the mental dots. "I must have sat closest to the bomb," she said. "Bomb? Radiation?" I asked. "Yes, we weren't supposed to leave this floating rock. Not alive anyway." It was my turn to be silent. "That's right," she said. "Sabotage." The revelation hit me like a bullet. My stomach churned and tears blurred my vision. Each of my friends' faces flashed before me, their laughter, their last moments, betrayed not by the planet but by our own kind. Anger surged through me, hot and fierce. My hands balled into fists, my breath coming in sharp, short bursts. "Why?" I whispered the word a curse in the silence of the wreckage. I saw Winkler's smile as he served the last meal on Longday. Ramirez's hands, always covered in grease, working on some machine, and Fisher's enthusiasm for every new toxin we discovered. All snuffed out. For what? Kahira's words were like knives. "Sabotage," she had said. I couldn't look at her. 4 of my friends are dead because of this betrayal. My voice cracked, the weight of the word betrayal heavier than the planet itself. "No time to explain. We need to find a cave or crevice. I'll explain in more detail then. We're in danger here in the open. They're looking for wreckage. And any survivors," she said. "You mean whoever they are will hunt us and kill us? Because there's something we're not supposed to know?" "You're smarter than you look," she said. I tried not to smile. "So we're not alone, after all." She gave me a quick, sharp look and shook her head. I trusted them. I trusted this mission. How could someone among us do this? How could I have been so blind to the serpents in our ranks? This wasn't just about survival or escape. It was about control, about keeping secrets buried as deep as the water we sought. Had I ever known the truth of this place, of these people? I stood there, silent. The only sound, the hiss of escaping air from somewhere in the wreckage. In that silence, the magnitude of our loss, of the betrayal, settled over me like a shroud. The rocket's wreckage lay twisted and silent, a tomb for shattered hope. Still reeling from the crash, I noticed something unusual amidst the chaos. A piece of metal, bent in an unnatural way, not from impact but from deliberate force. Kahira, seeing my gaze, confirmed my suspicions. This wasn't an accident, Driller. Look at the wiring here. She pointed to a frayed bundle near what was once the life support system. It's cut. Sabotage. The revelation hit me like another crash. But why? Surely there's more she wasn't telling me. Who could I trust? To keep us here permanently, Kahira said, her voice low, eyes scanning the horizon for any signs of pursuit. To maintain control, water, resources, everything. If we escaped, we'd reveal the secret. They'd lose their monopoly. What secret? Who is they? I thought. The immediate impact of the sabotage was now clear in my mind. It wasn't just a failure of machinery, but a deliberate act to ensure our silence, to keep the planet's dying secret buried along with us. The crash was to be our end. It was about the survival of a hidden society's control over life itself. A hidden society? Where? We stumbled upon a canyon crevice. The rock walls whisper with the cool breath of the underground. Inside, the cave was a refuge, its air musty with the scent of ancient stone and hidden moisture. The ground was slightly damp under my hands, a sensation so foreign after the dry, cracked earth above. We concealed our robots. The mechanical noise of their motors, a stark contrast to the drips and echoes in our new sanctuary. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Thomas is in military intelligence, and she's a captain. Just my luck. Fortunately, drillers don't have to salute. But the real shock was the myth of something living deep in the planet's core was true. At least according to Thomas, it's true. And not one solitary thing, but millions. The military interest, weapon potential. But how can creatures be weapons, especially on a dying planet? I asked. She was silent, looking at me, assessing my trustworthiness. I don't know everything yet, but anyone who knows the truth about the story is gone. You mean gone as in dead? She didn't say anything. I think so, she replied. How much of a role do you have in this conspiracy? Did you know they'd kill me? I asked. I knew they'd try to kill me. Remember that hole in my suit? I doubt they had an interest in killing you. I had found out too much. As for the rest of your friends, I'm sorry. I didn't know. Sorry. You might have warned us. You suspected danger. I didn't know they'd crash the rocket, but it all makes sense now. I thought for a moment. I didn't sign on for any military operation. I'm a low-class driller. I'm no warrior. She looked into my eyes. It seemed like forever. It felt uncomfortable. The only way we're getting off this planet is if you become a warrior. We have to fight or die. For the first time in 3 years, I thought I was raving mad. I'd experienced many hardships. They were nothing by comparison to this. I'm just a driller, I thought, hoping that title would release me. But we had to find the secret of the underground life forms. Then we'd know how to save ourselves. Okay, I'll think about it, I said, but listen, I haven't had a woman friend for over 3 years. Could you at least tell me your first name? So I don't have to call you Thomas. Thomas is what I'm called. It bothers you? She said. Well, sort of. It's a man's name. I'd rather not think of you as a man. Very well. My name is Kahira. It's an Irish warrior name for women, but not women friends. Kahira, I repeated, testing its sound from my mouth. It echoed in my helmet. Now you know why they call me Thomas, she said. Kahira, I like your name. It's unique, I said. Fine, but knowing my name doesn't make me your woman friend. I don't care if it's been 5 years. 3 years, I corrected, as if it mattered anymore. What do you propose we do? There's an entrance. We have to get there. It'll take us below the surface to a military base. Is it occupied? I asked. We'll find out, she said. Kahira? Yes, she said. Nothing, practicing your name. You're a desperate idiot, she said. and gave me a look that stirred my hope. "We can travel inside the robots while we sleep, but they will need planetary coordinates. You got anything?" I asked. She winked. I knew it. This woman was special. Bless her and her self-reliant spirit. We would survive, I hope. "Here's how you get inside these robots," I instructed Kahira. She smirked. "I know that. I've had survival training," she said. "Okay, once inside, you can recharge your suit through this cable." I pointed at it. She gave me a look like I was a dunce. "Got it. You know that too," I said. "Do you know how to load the planetary coordinates to get us to this entrance?" Now she was glaring at me. Either I was a lousy teacher or she was a lousy student, or both. She didn't like being told stuff she already understood. I'd best assume she knew everything imaginable and proceed with another approach. "Fine, show me you know all this stuff by doing it right now." She hesitated and stiffened. "Oops." I thought that sounded too command-like. I added, "Please." She slipped inside the robot and connected the charger. She programmed the coordinates as if she did this every day. I was impressed. "Sorry to have doubted your abilities," I said. "One last thing, here is a flare gun. I have no other possible weapon, but it might do. And if we get separated, you can use it to help me identify your location." She nodded and accepted the flare. "You're forgiven. We better get moving," she said. And I was surprised by her smile. She closed the metal hatch. I loaded myself in the other robot, and we began our journey. Encased in the clunky interior of the robot, the night's journey was full of mechanical clanks and the steady drone of motors. The vibrations were a constant massage against my weary body. The air inside was artificially cooled, a sterile contrast to the wild, untamed night outside. Through the comlinks, Kahira's voice crackled with static, a reminder of her presence. The sound of her breath was a whisper against the mechanical hum. Kahira's voice crackled on. "I wasn't always running, Driller. I led them once. I believed in a future where we could thrive, not just survive. But they feared change more than they feared death." I had a million questions, but fumbled, and I asked, "How long do you estimate it'll take to get to our destination?" I wondered if I needed to say, "Please." Her voice crackled over the link. "A long time, hours most likely. I recommend getting some sleep," she said. The ride was rough. I was rattling and bouncing against the robot's inner panel. It made a hammering sound resonating inside my helmet. Sleeping would be difficult. "Can we talk?" I shouted above the rattling. "No, sleep," she replied, and she silenced her comlink, and I was disappointed. In the din, I reflected upon the last 3 years on this forsaken planet. Somewhere on another planet was a fat bank account waiting as compensation for my labor. A lot of good it did me now. The stuff I wanted to buy was meaningless. My dreams evaporated in the crash. Survival was all that mattered now. There was no one in my disposable life except Kahira, and we were strangers thrown together by fate, not choice. I thought of the tragedy of my dead friends, left in the arid desert. Their bodies would turn to dust by morning. It wasn't right. Some of them had suffered on this hellish planet longer than I. For what? Death. That was their reward? Senseless, wasteful, evil. My head bounced and nodded to the mechanical aboriginal-like drumming surrounding me. I was beginning to either dream or hallucinate. I couldn't decide which. It didn't matter. My pounded body let go and finally relaxed from exhaustion. I dreamed of a beautiful place, lots of water. Well diggers dream of water. It's like gold and rubies. Water is a treasure, precious wealth. Kahira was there. Her suit was gone and she wore a loose-weave, colorful fabric wrapped around her body. She was standing in water up to her waist. "Join me," she said. I'd never wanted something so bad before. The robot suddenly stopped. That's when I awoke. I shook myself and clicked on the comm. "Kahira, your comm on?" I asked. Silence. "Kahira, You there? I struggled to get out of the robot. I was stiff and sore from the torture of being slammed around in the rocket and then all night in the robot. I dropped down to the red sand and slowly walked over the rocks around the robot's huge body. I stood speechless. I was alone. The other robot was nowhere in sight, not even tracks as evidence it arrived. It was the loneliest of moments. All I had were questions and more questions, but no answers. Nearby was a large cement box or shelter of human origin. That would be the entrance to the hidden military base, I thought. How long should I wait? Would she arrive before I was discovered? After several hours, there was still no sign of her. I decided the only choice was descending below the surface. Into the dark pit, I descended. The military transport elevator, for heavy equipment and vehicles, was easy to start. I figured it'd stop when I arrived at the bottom. How far that might be, I had no idea. The solid rock walls were glassy smooth, fired by natural intense volcanic heat, or by man-made rocket fuel. It was difficult to tell. As the elevator descended, I understood Kahira felt the pull of duty against the sting of betrayal. She loved these people, yet they had cast her out like refuse. Could she abandon them to their fate, or was this her moment to reclaim or redefine her legacy? The smooth, traveling elevator descended as if well-maintained, but no creature life existed. I grew tired of standing during this lonely and hollow experience. I couldn't sit comfortably, so I lay on my back and stared up at the shrinking sliver of surface light. How far would this rock tunnel go into the belly of Longday? Exhaustion pulled me into a sleep as deep as the underground I was descending into. Dreams wrapped around me like the darkness, but they were cut short by a desperate need for air. I awoke with a start, my lungs burning. The elevator stopped, surrounded by unseen light sources. I was suffocating. In desperation, I yanked at my helmet. The seal wouldn't release. There was atmosphere pushing outside, locking my helmet in place. I rolled over, lifted my head, and pounded the helmet visor against the metal platform. No luck. I did it again and again until tiny cracks formed. Finally, it broke, and breathable air poured into my lungs. The air was suddenly thick and fragrant with life, earth, foliage, and the distant, intoxicating scent of water. A stark contrast to the sterile, recycled air inside my suit. Gasping for breath, I lay face down, the sharp remnants of my visor scratching my cheek. But the pain was secondary to the overwhelming fragrance that enveloped me. A cocktail of fresh, green life and the earthy, comforting smell of soil after rain. The air here was thick with moisture. A tangible embrace of life filled my lungs with each desperate breath. So different from the recycled dry air of my suit. In my enthusiasm, I sprang forward and fell from the platform into soft grass, weeds, and flowers. Vegetation. I must still be dreaming, I thought. How could this be? I sank, the cool, moist grass cushioning my fall, a stark contrast to the inferno above. As I scanned the horizon, the air was sweet with the scent of damp earth and foliage, a symphony of chirping insects, the gentle rustle of leaves. No dust clouds marred this view, only the soft glow of an unseen light source and the occasional glint of dew on leaves, not metal. The air was alive with the songs of small birds. Their melodies are a contrast to the silence above, each note clear and joyful. From the corner of my eye, I saw a small furry creature, its fur soft and vibrant, scurrying with a rustle of leaves into a clump of brush. The scent of life was overwhelming here, green, fresh, and teeming with the earthy aroma of a living world. Life. Here was life. How? The surface was dying and dead. Is the inside alive? I couldn't see the distant light source I'd stared at for so long from above. It was as if the surface world disappeared. This world, so vibrant and alive, was hers once. The anger at her betrayal still burned within her, but so did a painful love for her misguided people. Had she been wrong to push them towards the unknown? There was no above in this subterranean paradise, only an expanse of beauty that seemed to defy all logic. Here, clouds hung lazily in the air, their edges soft with water vapor, casting shadows over the verdant landscape. A gentle, cool breeze carried the distant sound of water, a beautiful sound in this hidden world of life. How could there be a sky in the middle of a planet? I hadn't seen clouds for 3 years, 3 long years. Then I remembered the crash, my missing Kahira, my dead friends. The temporary wonder lulled me into false safety. Was I in any danger? I saw none, only the sounds of nature. I released the remnants of the broken helmet and dropped it to the ground. There's normal gravity here, I thought. I pulled and struggled to get out of my metallic sunsuit, and that's when I noticed the most heavenly lullaby, the babbling of water. It called to me like magic, and I ran a short distance, discovering a rocky brook. The banks were lush and verdant, green plant life dropping down over the banks, the tips touching the slow, wandering clear water. Despite its shallowness, I plunged into the brook, the water's chill a sharp contrast to the heat I'd known for so long. The sensation of being buoyed by the cool, clear liquid was like a rebirth. My body responded with gratitude, muscles relaxing in ways they hadn't in years. The water here was not the rationed, lifeless liquid of the surface, but teemed with life, its mineral scent and slight salinity a reminder of what real freedom felt like. Desert drinking water, tasteless, distilled and ionic to remove toxins. This was so different. I slurped this sweet brook water. Holding it in my mouth, I finally swallowed. It tasted of minerals and a hint of salt. It was beyond belief. Natural, clean water, untouched by poisons. How could this place even exist, I wondered, bathing myself in the warm pool. That's when I heard the elevator engine whir, and it began again to rise back to the surface. Was it on a timer? Or was this Kahira descending? Or enemies sent to kill me? Whoever it was, I had time to prepare for their arrival. I'd be ready. But first, I'd float a few more amazing minutes. When the elevator platform again reached the bottom, I'd fashioned some combat clothes from the cloth-like linings of my sunsuit. The metallic suit I disposed of in a convenient hole and hid myself in thick vegetation. There were 5 figures in shiny sunsuits on the platform. I recognized Kahira. It was the first time I'd seen her without a helmet. She had long, dark hair tied in a ponytail, same as my dream. Why did I like her? I couldn't tell if she was the leader or a captive. She had no restraints. I wondered, was she a friend or foe? There was no clue from her regal stance. They'd removed their helmets and conversed freely, but even straining, I couldn't make out any precise words. Surely they'd seen broken visor shards on the platform. The debris was cleaned off. Could Kahira have done that before the others arrived? That might mean she covered my trail. Still, the robot sitting at the top indicated I was down here. Did she hide it? Once off the platform, they walked single file on a secluded path. I overlooked seeing that ribbon-like path. They knew the direction well. But I didn't. There were no signs they suspected I was present. No searching or calling for me. Perhaps Kahira played a quick deception and protected me. There was no way to know. So I remained silent and waited. Silently, I trailed them through the underbrush. The crunch of leaves underfoot, muffled by the soft, damp earth. My well-worker's knife felt heavy in my hand. Its weight a comforting reminder of my past life, the metal cool against my palm, the blade catching the occasional glint of light through the foliage. The air was thick with the scent of green life, making my steps feel both intrusive and exhilarating. My knife felt puny, drawn in my fist. One thing was certain, the others knew Kahira's identity and her rank. The group of 5 walked a long distance with me, stalking. The trees became more sparse. I could hear a distant hum like machinery or ground vehicles. We approached a large city. I realized this remarkable city remained concealed from the universe. For fear of discovery, I couldn't enter the city. I watched as they prepared to enter via a roadway. Then, an odd thing. They removed the sunsuits and donned civilian clothing. What was going on? The little path is long gone. The group hid their suits and entered the city. I wasn't sure what to do next. How did the city inhabitants look and dress? How could I camouflage or disguise myself? I sat behind a tree, watching and waiting. A man staggered out and began urinating on a wall. Luck was on my side. I approached behind him and knocked his head against the wall. He went unconscious. I traded clothes and entered the city. The clothes were ill-fitting, and the owner was low in station. But no one noticed me as I milled among people in the street. I wonder if it'll get dark, I thought. They must simulate night and day. But I hadn't noticed any change in light since my arrival. My question was answered. As they approached the hidden entrance to the underground city, the sight of the familiar rock formations triggered a vivid memory for Kahira. The rough texture of the stone under her fingers brought back a flood of sensations, blurring the scene before her eyes, replaced by the grandeur of her past. Once, Kahira stood at the head of a grand council chamber, maps of water veins glowing faintly on the walls. Her voice rang with hope as she promised her people a future of exploration and survival. But fear poisoned the council. They branded her vision dangerous, exiling her to the surface. The scent of burning incense gave way to the caustic tang of betrayal as they cast their vote. She was an outcast, her dream extinguished. "You've gone too far, Kahira," the oldest elder declared, his voice slicing through the room like a blade through silence. "Your dreams of exploration will expose us to the stars, to those who would claim what is ours. We cannot trust the unknown." His words left a metallic taste of dread in her mouth. The decision was made with the rustle of robes and the final gavel strike echoing like a death knell. She was to be exiled, sent to the surface where the air would be thin and the ground scorched. The betrayal was swift. The scent of hope was replaced by the acrid smell of defeat. Her vision was extinguished in the minutes it took for the council to cast their votes. The memory faded as quickly as it came, leaving Kahira with the bitter taste of lost leadership. The entrance loomed ahead, now just a dark, uninviting shadow, contrasting sharply with the vibrant past she once knew. As Driller entered the hidden city, its unique beauty struck him. The city was carved directly from the planet's stone, blending nature and engineering seamlessly. Organic curves replaced sharp corners, and veins of shimmering minerals gave the city an ethereal glow. Bioluminescent fungi provided soft light, creating a tranquil, dreamlike atmosphere. The sound of running water was everywhere, coursing through channels that wove through the city, sustaining life. Life here seemed peaceful and self-contained. Buildings, shaped as extensions of the earth, were modest yet functional. Their simplicity masks the ingenuity behind their design. Gardens flourished under artificial sunlight, and the air smelled of damp earth and living things, a stark contrast to the desolation above. Despite the city's apparent harmony, Driller felt the weight of secrets hidden beneath its surface. The art and architecture told stories of survival and control. They whispered through the gentle hum of water and the faint rustle of foliage. The city plunged into darkness abruptly, as if the light itself had been snuffed out, leaving behind a silence that was almost palpable. The air cooled instantly, carrying the faint scent of unlit candles and the must of books never opened. There was no gradual descent into night, no warm hues of sunset, just an immediate shift to a world where the darkness was so complete that it seemed to press against your skin. No gradual change in coloration, one moment bright white, Next second is darkness, unnerving, but no one paid attention to this abrupt change, a common daily occurrence. Small artificial lights twinkled in windows and open doorways, no open flames from candles, no illumination on the streets or walls. Rationed energy is like precious water on the surface. Darkness was my advantage. I could explore in stealth. Buildings were rough masonry brick. No wooden components, not even for window or door frames. Roofs were dark tiles. Windows were glassless and unshuttered. Open air passed in freely. There were no glass or metal doors. They must not have bad weather or extreme temperature changes, I thought. Forever mild and temperate. A stormless tropical island inside a sea of planetary rock. Houses were plain, but businesses were painted natural color pigments. There must be no crime or violence, I thought. Anyone can enter any building or room at any time. Could such a society be so completely safe? How did Kahira fit in this peaceful community? The warrior woman, wasn't she from off-planet? Was she even military? Why her secret entry to the city? She must have lived here. I followed the sound of the music, not recorded music, but real musicians playing in harmony, voices singing an old Earth tune. Were these lost colonists? I recognized the rhythm. It took me back to happier times, good memories. The lights unexpectedly switched to bright again. I heard a commotion outside the city. The unconscious man. He was discovered. An alarm sounded. I was soon surrounded by angry people grabbing and holding me, pushing me to the ground and dragging me through the street. I was captured. They held me in an interrogation room. The chairs were hard, unyielding under my weight. The wood was worn smooth by countless interrogations. The light was harsh, casting long shadows and giving the room a sterile smell of dust and old fear. The table was cool to the touch, its surface scratched with the history of this place. The bars on the window not only blocked escape, but also let in a whisper of the outside world. A distant murmur of life contrasted with the enclosed, oppressive room atmosphere. They weren't happy with my hurting a citizen and stealing his clothes. Bad actions weren't tolerated. At least I understood the words they spoke. They hadn't lost their language to gradual corruption. That meant the existence of a library and books somewhere, maybe even schools and children, intelligence. Where there are books, there is recorded history. I wish I could read them. Perhaps those books even spoke of mercy. I prayed there would be mercy. My interrogator finally entered the room. He carried no weapon. I thought of the knife in my boot and decided to let it rest. "Who are you?" the interrogator asked. "My name is Guy Jackson. I'm a well driller from the surface," I said. He scowled. "The surface? Absurd. Nothing lives there." I found this interesting. Did he know everyone was dead? "Have you ever seen the surface?" I asked. "I do the questioning, not you," he replied. "I've seen the great death above." He was pompous and lying. He'd never even seen the elevator. "That's where I come from," I said, "up there." "Don't waste my time. No one exists above. It's poison. Stranger, why are you here?" "Why don't you ask Thomas?" I said, exploring the interrogator's knowledge. "Thomas? Thomas who? Who's he?" he snapped. Okay, I thought, he doesn't know Captain Kahira Thomas, nor that he's a she. Is that good or bad? "Thomas was on my crashed rocket. He must be dead," I bluffed. "What's a rocket? Speak clearly," he commanded. "A rocket is for space traveling from planet to planet," I said. "You're mad as a rock mole," he muttered. "These things aren't possible. Stories to entertain children." I was tempted to ask what a rock mole was, but provoking him deliberately would make things worse. "Take me to your leader," I said. I'd always wanted to say that. But drillers didn't get those opportunities often. I smiled. "You smile?" He eyed me with suspicion. I burst out laughing. "Why do you laugh?" "Well, digger, you're strange. For what do you dig?" "I drill," I said, catching my breath. "I drill for water." With this comment, the guard stood and pointed a threatening finger in my face. "Water thief!" he shouted, decreeing my death sentence. His chair tipped over backward and clattered noisily on the stone floor. He stumbled over it and fell. The sound reverberated sharp and clear in the tiny cell. Guards burst into the room. I saw an opportunity in the mayhem and bolted past the guards and through the door. I ran to the left corridor, dashing fast as drillers do when towers come loose and explode in all directions. You run. Your life depends upon speed and shelter. And I was the last driller. That meant I was without question the absolute fastest. I ran until I outdistanced the guards and was winded. I gasped for air. Frantic, I searched for a hiding place. The lights were off again outside. I could chance the darkness again, or I could stay in this building. This was where the action was happening. I sensed it and slipped into a doorless room. Crouched in a dark corner, my eyes grew accustomed to the dark. Someone was asleep in the deep center of the room, occupying a huge bed. I heard the lumbered breathing of a heavy-set man. The slumberer's presence reduced my chance of discovery. No one would disturb us. I took a moment to think. The authorities questioning me. They don't know Kahira, or at least they don't know her by the name Thomas. Nor do they know Thomas is a woman's last name. That was interesting. Did she have an alias here? Or was Thomas her surface alias? Was she a spy? Why did they discard their sunsuits before entering the city? Maybe sunsuits are evidence the surface exists. Were her elevator comrades friends or enemies? Was she forced to play a role of deceit? She knew about the surface, but these city men didn't. Not the truth, anyway. They thought the surface mythical, as we did about their hidden abode. And drilling for water was a crime here. Why? Again, I asked questions clouded in mystery. And why was Kahira even in the doomed rocket? I needed a library and some history. Knowledge is power, especially if your life depends upon it. Was I in mortal danger? For some reason, I didn't think so. The worst they could do was send me back to where I came from, or kill me. They were the same result for me. My jumbled mind spun in confusion. The sensation overwhelmed me. Life seemed paradoxically slow and fast. In the still darkness, the quiet made me conscious of my every breath. My breathing was too fast. I focused on slowing it. I exhaled and took a long, deep breath. I held it a moment and released it. I felt I could hear my every thought. My old life was erased. Gone. I was in a new land, even a new inner world. It was mysterious and beautiful but frightening. So many things I thought were false were now proven true. There was life still on this planet. With enough time, several millennia, planet Longday must burn up and perish. But these people didn't know that. They lived unaware. They didn't know the dead surface was a foreboding of their fate, and not knowing allowed them a blissful existence. They lived without fear. On Longday's surface, we only knew fear. Survival was our daily goal. Life exploded with the mere hissing sound of escaping oxygen. I wished to belong to these carefree people. How could I integrate into their strange society? I must learn their ways. We have a tradition of not lingering long in the dark. I was startled at the voice so close to me. Their ways? I thought. Traditions? Yes. Our ways are not your ways, the unseen voice said. I recognized her voice. It was Kahira. Are you reading my mind? I whispered. Obviously, and without a machine, she voiced in my inner mind. They can read minds with machines. And without, I marveled. I felt her touch, but it was not her hand. It was the barrel of a weapon jabbing my side. Are you friend or enemy? She asked with her natural voice. She was inside my head, listening. For how long? I decided to test her mental prowess and thought of my answer. I am your ally. She lowered the weapon. I heard it holstered in a cloth sheath, a hidden pocket in her clothing. How did you find me? I thought. You have a noisy mind, she whispered. I nodded and smiled. The dark lump of a sleeping man snorted. I startled awake. My chin rested on my chest, my throat dry. When did I fall asleep? Was Kahira's voice a dream? I touched my side where she had jabbed me with the weapon. It was still tender. It was real. She was here and left. I was holding my breath. I let it out slowly. Elusive woman. Blessing or curse? I was more curious than ever. I stood up from my sitting position. Something scraped against my chest inside my shirt. I smiled. A crude map. She hadn't left me without hope. I was losing track of time. I couldn't remember how many days or nights I wandered. I followed her map as best I could. The trail's surroundings, once lush and green, turned brown and dry. Water was not prevalent away from the city. Was the city water supply unnatural after all? Or this inner earth possessing varying climates? The loamy soil underfoot was sandy and loose. The vegetation was sparse and coarse. I saw a few lizards and snakes, but no mammals. Everything screamed thirst. Ahead, I imagined there were only cactus and sagebrush. Where was she sending me? To a frying death in the desert. Without warning, it was dark. No rising dawn or gentle dusk. No temperature change. The abrupt light changes still unnerved me. My eyes grew used to the dark. I saw small lights on the horizon, little beacons of expectation. That must be my goal. I trudged on, stumbling and swaying in the dark path. Hidden in the shadows of the underground, Kahira finally confided in Driller. "There's more to this than survival," she whispered in Driller's head. The echo of her words mingled with the distant sounds of the city's life. "More?" Driller asked, his mind racing with the implications of their situation. "Yes," she continued, "the council, the ones who overthrew me, they've always feared exposure. Not just of this world, but of the power they wield. The water, it's not just a resource, it's their weapon. They control it, they control life. The sabotage was their way of ensuring no one could challenge that, especially not someone like me who knew too much." Driller's realization deepened. The crash wasn't just about stopping them from leaving. It was about stopping the truth from spreading. "So they'd rather kill us than risk losing their grip?" "Exactly," Kahira confirmed. "And now, knowing this, we're both targets. They won't stop until we're silenced, or until we expose them. For them, killing you is more important than silencing me." "Me? I'm a nobody water driller." "Exactly. The most important eyewitness of all, the most credible expert testimony they fear, that of a lowly but honest water driller. It seemed to take forever. There are moments in life that alter your course for eternity, when rockets explode, when sunsuits leak, when water surrounds you. There are other moments completely insignificant. You never know which until you pass through the moment and step into the future. Then you are aware of the gravity of choice and its consequences. You accept your fate and play the game hoping to end well. This is where I am, trapped in a brutal game. I can't return to the world I came from, and yet I slowly walk daily towards a future of death or life. No clue which. I hated Kahira for playing with my life, torturing me, not telling me where and why I suffered these deprivations. Was she my ally or not? "I am with you always," she said in my inner mind. It spun me around as I searched for the source of her voice. There was no one but tumbleweed and grasshoppers. "I hate it when you do that," I said. "Where have you been? Where are you now?" "I'm in the encampment ahead of you, the lights you follow at night." "What do you want with me?" I shouted to the dead wind. There was a silence, a long pause. "I don't want anything. I need," she replied. "What is it you need?" I asked. She was quiet. "I need you to rescue me." "Rescue? Is this another trick?" I said. The silence was longer than before. "No trick. I'm held captive." "Why?" I asked. "I'm bait," she said. "You can't be serious. For what purpose?" "Bait for you. They want you." They know you'll come for me. Why would I come for you, I asked. Because... Her voice trailed off. She sighed. What? I sputtered. Now it was my turn to be silent. A warmth filled me. She was bait because I love her. It was true. How could this be? How could I love someone I didn't know? I sensed she was smiling at my delayed response. Why do they need me? I asked. You're the last driller. They need water. They're desperate for water, more than they need my life. You're mad. These people have the technology to drill for water. Guy, the driller, this world is backward. Hearing her say my name felt weird. Sickness grew in my gut. Were you sent to trap me and sacrifice the others on the rocket? I don't know. I only know they want your capture, she said. I'm insignificant, nobody. Why would they kill my friends to grab me? Water, that's all I know. They believe you can provide them water. But there is so much water back at the underground city, I said. Why not take that? It's not the same, it's not genuine. What do you mean, not genuine? It can't be fake. I floated in the stuff. It feels real, tastes real, but it can't assimilate into the body. Not enough to sustain life. But the people in the city seem healthy enough. Seemed, yes, they appear fine, but they aren't. They all must die. I thought for a moment. Are you saying they're expecting me, Mr. Nobody, to save this dying world? Boy, they made a big mistake. She was silent again. They will sacrifice me. You must arrive soon. Then they'll force you to find water. If you don't, we'll both die. Cheery news. Thanks. There's no water from the planet's surface. It's dead. Baked to cinders. There must exist pockets of water between the world's surface and here. There must be something. Not a drop, I said, but you didn't think there was life beneath the surface either. You're wrong about the water. I hope I am, I said, as I began running as best I could. And then her thoughts were gone from my mind, and I still ran, thinking of her words. Soon the lights were visible in the darkness again. They were closer now, and I wondered what I should do. I had no machinery or engineering tools. Drilling for water would be impossible. It was preposterous I should save a dying world. It was not of my making, but I could save Kahira from death, or I could die trying. That seemed worthwhile. These people sealed their fate when colonizing into this inner space. It was not my calling to save their nation. They made a wrong assumption. One driller is insufficient. In the dark, I now saw mud and clay huts. Small fires inside made the openings in the walls glow bright. One of these huts held Kahira. Where are you? I thought, trying to contact her. I'm in the third hut, the one with the guard outside. There's another guard inside. Are you hurt? No, I'm okay. Is there a way out of this place? Do they have a rocket hidden down here somewhere with a launching silo? There was silence. Yes, but how did you know? No one knows but a few. Why do you know? I asked. I was the ruler of this people, she said. Was? I asked. Overthrown, exiled. That's why I was at the surface. I'm exiled and was making my escape, or deportment. Didn't work out so well. Understatement, I said. Total disaster. Someone sabotaged the attempt. I'm sorry, she said. I detected remorse in her voice. It surprised me for some reason. I thought her tough. I was wrong about a lot of things. Can you distract the inner guard and get him outside? Sure. What do you have in mind? They'll take a long nap while you and I find that rocket. We don't have to look for the rocket, it's here. Is it fueled? Yes. Then we're taking a trip tonight. There was a silence. But these are my people. You must save them, she said. I can't. It's beyond my capabilities. I'm only a driller. I don't have superpowers. It's you and me. And that's it. I could tell she was thinking. It was a big change. It was one of those not going back moments. Okay, I'm ready, she said. I ran unseen into position, and when the second guard emerged, I clubbed them both into dream time. Kahira stood before me dressed in fine materials. "You look beautiful," I said. "You look horrible," she said. I looked down at my ragged clothes and dirty skin. I was a mess. "I don't travel as well as you," I said. She led me to the rocket launch area, and we donned sunsuits for the flight. "I can't believe you'll leave with me," I said. "These people betrayed me. You saved me. Why would I do anything else?" she said. "Because I'm a nobody," I said. A silly driller." "That's good enough for me," she replied. And she kissed me. 3 years was worth it. We entered the rocket awaiting all the automatic checks. The real last rocket. The surface survivors drilled in vain for water. None located. The same happened here. The drills could go no deeper. The project was abandoned, but planetary evacuation didn't start. Left to die. I am a driller. Millennia from now, this cursed planet will explode. The shrieking, buried life will cry out in desperation, never heard in the quiet of burning space. I felt sad for them because they exist. All life is precious, even if suffering in pain. The dim lights flickered. The humming main engine was hot. There were only the two of us, myself, the driller, and of course the mysterious brown-eyed young woman, Kahira. Robots are sealed lifeless in the back cargo area. Déjà vu. There were no pilots. Everything was computer-controlled. Automated flight plan. I sunk into the seat nearest the heavy boarding door and locked my shoulder straps. The door slammed shut. Kahira strapped into the seat nearest me. We looked through our visors at each other. There was sadness in our eyes. The engine roared to life and the vertical ascent began, shaking up and up through the rocky shaft. We punctured our way to the surface and into space beyond. And our new life. The rocket's metal shell pierced a huge pocket of subterranean fresh water. It descended in a torrent toward the planet's center. As if a dam had burst within the Earth itself, water surged down the conduit. Its sound was a thunderous roar that filled the rocket with the echo of life. The scent of minerals and wet earth burst through the air, a freshness that seemed to wash away the stench of fear and smoke. I imagined the cool spray touched my face, a sensation so rare it felt like a blessing. Each imagined droplet was a reminder of what we had been fighting for. I'm only a driller, I thought, the most famous and beloved driller on this cursed planet. I'm the luckiest driller alive. I saved a world, my new love, and my lonely self.